everyone, this video is going to show you how to create a multiple choice question in ExamSoft. A few things though before we get to creating the multiple choice question. I'd like to go over just a few ways that you can stay organized when you're creating an assessment. So the first thing that I like to do to help me stay organized is that I like to create all of the new questions first. Then I like to modify all of the existing questions. From there, I then add all of the questions onto the assessment. To me, this saves a lot of time because there's a lot of going back and forth if you create a question and then add it to the exam or the assessment, or you are modifying a question and then you add that to the assessment. It's just a lot of back and forth, and I just have found that, at least for me personally, it's a lot easier to create all the questions, modify all the existing questions, and then add all of them onto the exam. Granted, if you have a different process that works for you, that's great, stick with it. And this is just my suggestion of how I like to create an assessment. Another thing that I like to do to help keep me organized is when I receive the document with the new questions like you see here, I like to actually print this out because I then will write the ID number once the question has been created. So that's my way of knowing, okay, this question has been created and is in the question bank. And then I'm also able to cross off the question once I put it into the exam. So it just kind of helps me to know what questions I created, what questions I've modified, and then when the questions get added to the exam and what questions I still have to add. I also will keep this document on my desktop, and you'll see why in a few minutes. So, in order to create a multiple choice question in ExamSoft, first we need to log in to ExamSoft using your Neomed email. And then you'll type in your password. If you can't remember your password, email your course coordinator, or you can email Lisa Morris, and she'll be able to reset your password for you. Once you've logged in, you're going to come to the ExamSoft home screen where you're going to click Create Questions. Then you're going to go ahead and click on Create Multiple Choice. Once you get to the multiple choice creation page, the first thing you're going to want to do is write down the ID number. This is going to allow you to look up the question and add it to the assessment later. So this ID number is 27391. So now I've got that recorded so I know I can find the question later. There are different ways to look up questions if you don't have the ID number, but this is the easiest way to look up a question. So you won't have to worry about the title, but you will need to select a folder to save the question into. So you'll click on the drop down and you'll scroll down to pharmacotherapeutics, which is already open, but you would just click the plus sign. Or whichever pharmacotherapeutics course you have access to, and then you're going to choose the module that the question relates to. So the multiple choice question that I've chosen relates to the cardiology module. So I'm going to click on that, and it automatically will save the question to the cardiology module. The group function you're only going to use if you have multiple questions that are related to the same case. For example, if this question was part of a series of questions, you would label this PT1, and it likes to automatically fill it in for you, and then Cardio1, and then because this question relates to acute coronary syndrome, I would abbreviate that ACS. So that way you can see that this is a pharmacotherapeutics cardiology 1 module question related to acute coronary syndrome, and it's the very first group that has been created for this topic. That way, if you would want to use this question on a future assessment or the series of questions on future assessments, you can look and see what topic and module and course that it's related to. So once we have our folder, we have the question saved to a folder, we've added our group if that's necessary. Next we're going to add the categories. This is very important because this is how we, first of all, how we track student performance on questions. It's also pertinent to accreditation. So this is very important to make sure that you include this information on each question. So I'm going to pull up my document because my document has all my categories. So first I'm going to click on pharmacy, and then I'm going to scroll down to pharmacotherapeutics. And then the first thing you see is the topics. You can choose any topic related to the question, so you can have multiple topics. So this question relates to the topics of acute coronary syndrome and physical assessment. So we'll scroll down. Click on both of those. The next category I need to choose is the ACPE appendix. And that you'll find under Learning Outcomes. So you'll click down and then you'll click on External ACPE appendix, and you'll see that this appendix is A1CS06. So I'll scroll down until I find that, which is Patient Assessment. Click on it. And then I'll scroll all the way to the bottom where it says level of difficulty. I'll click on the plus sign, and this is introductory, so I'll click on that and hit done. So now I've got all my categories. So then next we have these options. You can change the weight to the question if it's going to be weighted more than 1 point. As far as randomized choices go, this isn't something that you'll want to click on. This is something that the assessment team will do when we finalize the exam and give it to them. Then you've got multiple answers. So for example, let's say answer A and B were both correct. You can choose to give a student partial credit if they get option A right, but they get B incorrect. If it's a select all that apply question, you can then also click on that. Attachments. So if you have an attachment that's very large, you're going to want to place it here. You have to remember that our students are taking these exams on a laptop, so they don't have very big screens. And if you embed a large image into the question stem, it's very difficult for them to see it, whereas if you attach it, it actually will pop out into a separate screen when the student comes to the question. Next, we have rationale, which you'll never use. And then we have internal comments. The only time you're going to use internal comments is when you are creating a short answer question, which we will talk about in another video. So once you have the left side completely filled out, then you'll come over here and you'll put in the question stem. I find it easiest I will copy and paste the question, and I actually will put it into another Word document because you have to take out all of the formatting. So you have to remove all of the answer options or it won't copy and paste correctly, which is why I keep the blank document on my desktop as well. So then once I'm done, I will actually cut the question, and then I will paste it into the question stem. There's a few ways you can paste questions into the question stem. You can click on this icon right here, and you can paste it in and then hit OK. You can hit paste, which does the same thing, and hit OK. I personally like to use the keyboard function, so I just go ahead and hit Control-V. And there's my question with the answers. And the nice thing is that if you bold all of your answer choices, that will come into ExamSoft. If you change the color, it won't come in, which for me, not knowing the answer, keeping it bold is nice because then I don't have to switch back and forth between the document and ExamSoft to see what the correct answer is. So then I just use the keyboard functions, Control-X, and Control-V to cut and paste the answers into the answer choices. So then once I've done that, I will go over here and click on the correct answer choice, and I will unbold the question. so that way the students won't know what the answer is. And then I come up to the question stem and I delete the extra space. Once I've done that, I will go ahead and hit approve. I'm not actually going to hit approve because this question is already in the cardiology question bank, but you would hit approve, and then that question would be saved into the cardiology module question bank. You never want to click on save, because if you click on save, it basically will save a draft of the question, and you can't find the question, and you can't use the question on an assessment. So you don't ever want to hit save, you always want to hit approve. So then once you hit approve, you know the question is saved in the bank and you can move on to creating other questions. So that is how you create a multiple choice question in exam.